New York-based photographer recently released a book chronicling his long-term collaboration with his mum, Kathleen. While the project began organically, it's evolved into a fascinating collaboration that questions familial relationships and the power dynamics of photography. Charlie, we're very pleased to have you here. Please turn on your audio and video so we can say hello.
Hey, Bob.
There it is.
Hi.
How are you doing? Yeah, we can hear you. How are you?
Good. I'm still basking in Paula's universe right now, so it might take me a while to come back to my world, but I'm gonna try.
Fantastic. You're talking today about a book, and I think you've got a copy there.
Yes.
You want to just hold up and show people. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the book, and then I'll leave you to do your presentation.
Yeah, I just released this book. Basically, it coincided with the global lockdown. And I just wanted to show it as a kind of physical object, because that's what a book is, before I switch over to screens. I think, Paula gave me a good transition there. We can have a bit of a push and pull between the screen and the reel. Also, I think, I don't like, it's important to get different kinds of image making and different interests. I started to realize how important this idea of context was. So, how different types of making or different scenarios or contexts of making had different value, different rules for value and rules for desire. So, for example, the idea of making a fashion picture is crucially very different from making an art picture, or at least we feel that those things are different. And with this idea of context, it also led me to this idea of what can you put in that box what does that box hold? And what can you put in that, if you put something in that box, does the box kind of give and it expands a little bit, like you pushing on the boundaries of the box, but the box can hold it? Or if you put something in, does the bottom of the box drop out? Can the box not hold that? So I started to think of all these kind of boxes, like fashion photography, the box of fashion photography. What can you put into it? And maybe if you put this into it, it stops being a fashion photograph. The box kind of falls out, and it has to be held by the sort of art box, for example. And as I started to kind of rub up against these ideas of categories, or sometimes I like to call them conventions, and I started to, again, think about what those mechanisms were, and also I started to see these boxes everywhere. Not only are there boxes like certain categories of image making, like fashion and art, there's also ideas of mom, or family, or woman, or American, white, middle-aged, etc. Ideas and mechanisms behind image making in general. And meanwhile, I was constantly making casual work with my mom here and there. And working with a lot of other people and working in a lot of other contexts, I started to realize how special and unique the kind of trust that we were sharing was. My mom, being my mom, was really giving herself to me in an incredibly full way, in a very unconditional way. There was an extreme amount of trust that I kind of had taken for granted, because that was the context in which I grew up. And working with other people and sort of thinking about all these different sort of forms of representation and image making, I sort of realized, wow, there's actually like a huge core here that is very stable, and that's a huge opportunity, not only for me, but also for her, and let's see what we can do. So I started to sort of think about these ideas of categories and contexts and conventions by using this kind of pillar of trust and this pillar of this individual who I have some sort of idea of an unconditional relationship with, as a kind of control and an experiment of category. So, we have this phrase, visual language, and I love this phrase because you kind of think language. Okay, so like what kind of voice do various visualities have? So, for example, like what kind of lighting does hard flash have a different light than soft? Have a different voice, than soft kind of shadowy light? Or is there certain kind of styling techniques, or what kind of voice do locations have? So yeah, my mom kind of acted as this sort of control in these category experiences, and I started to try to sort of throw as many sort of contexts and categories and conventions at her as possible. So I've cast her in runway shows that I've been involved with. She's been in TV commercials, sometimes that have nothing to do with me. I photographed her on every kind of angle, every kind of photographic technique I can think of. We've really challenged different modes of kind of relationship. And the more I did that, and the more I was kind of using her as a sort of material, or this sort of sounding board or kind of control as I was talking about it, I started to kind of realize, actually, and the more developed that work became, actually this person is a person. This person isn't an inert kind of control or some kind of mute stand-in for various categories such as mom or woman of a certain age or subject of a photograph or whatever. She is a flesh and blood human with all sorts of contradictions and complexities, which begged to me the question of ethics. But what does it even mean to photograph someone, and also crucially, who are these photographs for? It's one thing for me to photograph my mom, and we can have a sort of interaction that's catapulted by that between us two. But then if I create a book of it and then submit it to everybody, what does that mean, and who are these photographs for? Like, what is that dynamic of turning the personal outwards, for example? So yeah, I started to question this idea of authority and the sort of power dynamics of photography. So, we have this idea that the photographer sort of bestowed a certain kind of authority over the representation of things that they're photographing. So if that's true, what are the ethics of that authority? And is it possible then for me to use that authority of an image as an image maker to sort of create more domains of authority? So, for example, can I give my mom a certain kind of authority by kind of enacting my authority as an image maker? Like, so if I'm putting her in a runway show, or if I'm putting her in a commercial, or making a video with her, or just giving her a wig to wear, can she sort of react to that in a way that sort of complicates those dynamics that seem kind of transactional or one to one ask of other people? And that was very kind of crucial to the making of the work, and is kind of foundational in the work. So no, she's I think very uniquely game, and is really willing to sort of give herself to a process, and that is a gift, and it's something that I think I don't know, I feel very blessed to have that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, Nat, who kind of answered the question, just put in the chat as well that she thinks it comes across in photos that that's the case.
I really
absolutely.
hope so. Yeah.
Well, listen, Charlie, thank you so much for everything and for that amazing presentation. Great to see your thought process live like that. If I could ask you to please stop sharing your screen, and then and say mute and stop your video. But thank you so much again.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, guys.